Hello and welcome to another Factorio Base Tour. I'm Exterminator and thank you so much for joining me for this one. And today we are covering a pretty awesome base. This is definitely a Megabase, and this one is from Jackson. They submitted it to me a fair while ago, a little more than a month ago, and unfortunately there was just a backlog to go through. And as I mentioned before, I like to space these out, so uh, there's that. But we're finally getting to it. And this is a very cool, interesting base. So there were several goals in mind when creating this base. Jackson wrote up a very nice synopsis for me. I'm not going to cover every single thing written in it. It's like 6 pages, but I did read through all of it. It's very extensive. So there were several goals. The first of which was to test out a series of blueprints they had. Basically, that the blueprints were a set of blueprints that would bring them from nothing to a consistent rocket, even though it wasn't super fast, dubbed, so it was kind of called the Midstrap project. So that was the first goal. The first blueprint of that was just like a Kickstarter blueprint base. This is kind of what we're looking at here. Here's the Kickstarter base. So this was a blueprint, but like the first blueprint to just kind of get them started and stuff like that. So that brought them up to construction bots, basically. And then the next step was the midstrap base, which is what we see down here. And this is a fairly sizable base. I mean, this is, this is actually a pretty decent sized base, even though this is not even really, this is just a very small section of the now current base. But I have map labels on just so we can kind of see what's going on here. Everything is belt based. I think the majority of stuff in this map is belt based. And as you can see, we have some oil here, some iron and steel smelting going on here. Pretty straightforward stuff, but this is a very cool build. So this, got them from kind of a starting point after the Kickstarter base up to launching rockets. It does have every science in here. You can see purple science here, blue science here, green, red, etc. Some pretty interesting and cool belt designs going on. I really like how there's space in here for the roboports. I would assume that's intentional, and it's actually really creative, really smart. I'm a big fan of that. They are using a setup here that I've not seen something like this in a little while, quite a while, in fact. So this is a way to build red circuits. You can do it belt-based or robot-based. This kind of a long time ago was like dubbed like the fish sandwich build. This is not exactly it, but doing something like this where you have, instead of like putting a copper cable and then belting it like farther down a line, like in a straight line to like a row of red circuit machines, they have the copper cable in the middle, which is just directly inserting into the red circuit machines that it supplies, which is also probably the other reason for the belts being like this. But it's pretty awesome. Now they do have a speed module in here along with the productivity modules, which I find fairly interesting. I don't know if that is something to do with the I don't know if that's something to do with ratioing it, because this is one cable machine to 6 red circuit machines, which seems a bit odd with the modules. I think the modules change that, but maybe that's why there's a speed module in there. I don't know the exact module ratio, but I'm going to assume this is correct. So there's red circuits. I just want to take a look at that because I thought it was pretty interesting build there. A lot of like kind of zigzaggy belts here, but it certainly does not look bad. And I am noticing there's no sound. I checked my sound settings. I'm not sure what's going on. I don't know if maybe my sound got messed up in here somehow, or my computer. All my sound settings seem fine, so apologies that there's no game sound. I guess you just get to listen to to my voice. I mean, we've heard Factorio sounds enough. It's nothing super crazy. So this is the mid-strap base here. And we see some solar scattered around. So at some point during this process, they were running out of power. So they set up a dedicated solar build to, well, purely make solar panels and accumulators. And, they started placing solar, and they have a lot of it. This is a massive amount of solar power here. All the same design, pretty decent looking design here. on the map, it looks very clean, very just very square and stuff like that. Now, if we take a look at some power poles, we can see this is a large base. It is consuming 22, almost 22 and a half gigawatts of power. Now, a lot of that is actually nuclear power via over 2,000 turbines. But then there is over 250,000 solar panels as well. So it's a combination, which I like. We will take a look at the nuclear here shortly. Well, why don't we just do it now? So here it is. Very cool build. I think I've seen some builds like this before. This one I particularly like, though. It looks very, very nice in the map, especially arranged like this. You can see some more copies of it here, basically. But it works where it's kind of built on the island, and you can see the little spaces here between for the pumps, which works quite well. This is a fairly common thing to do, and well, it'll be a little tedious to do. This is actually really impressive. One of my favorite designs I've seen, I've got to say. This just looks so good on the map. Really, really nice looking design. I don't know if this is theirs or they pulled it from somewhere. Not that it really, I mean, I'm not criticizing if they pulled it from somewhere, but if Jackson made this themselves, very impressive. Some of these are not actually working currently, as you can see, but these are at least connected to the grid here. And then, of course, the solar panels, and there may be more somewhere. So actually, there's some up here, too. So it looks like the ones on the island perhaps aren't even connected, is maybe what's going on there. So that's the mid-strap base. Now, I want to move on to the secondary goal. Well, there were, I guess, kind of 2 secondary goals, maybe 3 goals total. The mid-strap base blueprint testing, and then they say their goal was a modest 45 science per second, which, by the way, is a blue belt at every science. I wouldn't call that modest. That's a very it's a very large amount of science. That's like over 2,000 science a minute. So that's pretty impressive. That's definitely Megabase territory there. And the other kind of goal I want to mention, just because we'll notice it as we start going up here, is they wanted to kind of test the edge of the map. Now, we do know that supposedly the Factorio map is 1,000,000 tiles in any direction from the World Center, is basically the edge of it. So they dubbed this Quest for the North Edge. That's the name of the save game. And as of them sending me this map, which again was like a month ago, they are 10k tiles out, so 1% down. Not huge, but you can imagine how far 1,000,000 tiles is when we actually look. If we take a look here, like, this is 10k tiles. It's a very, very explored long long map here. So it's actually going to be moving upwards with a very central rail line, which is something I can't say I've seen really before, maybe once or twice, in the sense that it's not just like a sprawling rail network. It's literally just one rail line for the most part up the middle with the build. It's basically almost like a train bus, like this would be, the actual bus as if it were a belt for trains, and then the production is off the side here. And it's actually really, really quite good. It seems to work well. Let's take a look really quick at production. Now, they did say that there are some bottlenecks here, and that it's actually due to the labs, that the labs only consume, I think they said, like 25 science a second, or 20 a second, thereabouts. But if we do look at production on the 1 minute graph here, we are pretty high up there, over 2,000 red and green, 2,000 space, almost 2,000 purple and yellow. We can, if we look at like an hour, that maybe gives us a better idea. About 1k science each, again, limited apparently due to the labs, but they are cranking through research, through research here pretty good. Mining productivity 27. Over the last hour, an average 100,000 iron per minute, almost 100,000 copper, 50,000 green circuits. So very, very good production numbers here. If we just take a look at all time, there's about 134 hours on this save, which is quite a lot, honestly. So over that time, they've done 204 million iron, 200 million copper, 133 million green circuits, 28 million red circuits, 15 million steel there, 4.5 basically million blue circuits. If we find science, but definitely about 1 million of all of them, except military and purple, just because those aren't used in as nearly as many sciences. But yeah, so mining productivity, which is, again, not cheap. Mining productivity 27 is what they're working on. They do have bot speed 13 done, because 14 is the next one, so quite expensive. This next one, 250,000 packs. And the bonuses, and then we'll look at the base, but just kind of touching on this stuff first. So, of course, the 260% mining prod. They do have some artillery range. They are using artillery. The biters are on, as you can see here. They have pretty significant turret defenses here. And I do want to mention, this is essentially vanilla. They used max rate calculator, which just helped. It's just like a ratio calculator, basically, and then Afraid of the Dark. So absolutely nothing that would be like majorly game changing. And nothing spawned in. Like, these resources, as you can tell, are all naturally generated. Nothing like that. So this is, I'm going to call it vanilla. Technically, it's not, because it used 2 mods, but as far as like actual, base building and gameplay is concerned, I'm going to call it vanilla. So there's that. So moving up, these look to be just blueprints. These are just kind of blueprints they've laid down here to, paste down where they need them. Fairly common thing to do. So we start here. We have some red circuits, some blue circuits, making modules. They did mention that they quickly realized that they were going to have a large shortage of speed modules when they were trying to build the Megabase. So they set up this module production area here, which, again, if you're building a Megabase, is basically required. Like, good luck making enough modules just from your little starter base. So you can see they have 2 machines here in the end making level 3 modules. And then the build here, so we have, some level 2 modules, level 1 modules, and, this will crank them out. This definitely is cranking them out. They have almost 7,000 of them. I don't see productivity module production, at least not here, so I'm a little curious about that, where they maybe did that. I mean, there's a build here, so they must have it placed somewhere. I looked at a fair bit of this map, but not every single thing beforehand. So here is some general production. So this is circuit production, it looks like, batteries and some oil, perhaps. So as you can see, a little, I say little, I mean, it is little, it's fast, but it's a small oil build, some sulfur batteries here, all belt-based. These yellow belts seem so slow comparatively. I mean, they are, but green circuits here, 1-to-1 ratio, again, good ratio, and it's fully productivity modeled. It's pretty dang close to 1-to-1. Standard, mostly standard beacon setups here. This is a 12, or sorry, this is an 10 beacon setup, and then this is an 8 beacon. So they're differently beaconed a little bit. I don't know if that's intentional for ratioing or not. It's not that huge of a deal. I mean, it's generating absolutely full belts here. So, and this is the solar and accumulator production area. So just cranking these out, 50,000 solar panels and 20,000 accumulators. In fact, a fun fact is that they are producing more solar panels and accumulators than they can, like, they're producing them faster than they can place them, essentially. Not that they, I mean, they may actually need power generation soon, but, even if they were placing them, like, constantly, they're making them faster than they can place them, which, honestly, I'd say that's a good sign there, good start. So if we move on up, kind of cross a bit of a little ocean way here, and come over, and we see some interesting, so this is a two-lane system. We have loops in here, which is simply maybe just turnarounds. I'm not a huge fan of this, but I think in this particular sense, it would work, simply because they literally just have one line going the whole thing, so it would make sense to want turnarounds somewhere through it rather than at the very end of it, which is, as we saw, very far away. So they have that. They have a massive amount of defenses here for arty. So this is where an artillery wagon would pull in and stuff. I would imagine they're not using this one anymore, considering that the biters would aggro and destroy the solar panels in the process. I mean, they've walled this in already, so I guess they could do it from here, and then the biters would just hit against the walls, which they have pretty well defended. As you can see here, they've kind of strategically defended, knowing that ones that aggro over here are really only going to hit this corner, and you can see it's kind of less fortified up here. And then we have coming up here another artillery outpost here, automation science right here. So I actually saw another build for this farther up, but again, all belt builds splitting off of the main train line, and then it seems like everything, or basically everything needed for these builds, as you'll see as we go up, are collected very nearby and not necessarily trained in, which is pretty interesting, pretty unique. I'd say they're actually, I don't know if I should say lucky because they just built the stuff in your patches, but they are kind of lucky that they got patches that were, where they needed and supplied what they needed for each of these builds. So as you can see, the iron just pulled locally right here. As for the smelting build, this is a 12 beacon setup all the way through. All these are equally beaconed. Fantastic. I like the use of side loading here to actually out both sides. Just make sure you make sure you're outputting at a fast enough pace. Interesting, they use fast inserters instead of stack inserters. I don't know if maybe they built this before they had stack inserters and haven't upgraded, or just due to how stack inserters output on belts that they preferred fast inserters. I know the stack inserters can fill a belt if you use them, with a little tweaking, but I mean, this certainly works. So using fast inserters, nothing wrong with that, just taking note. The ore comes in on the side here. Overall, I like this build. Very nice, very well done. Mining here, plenty of resources, because we have a 100 mil patch plus over 200% productivity, so that's a lot. An oil patch here, very rich. It looks like maybe they just bumped resources up really high, is what they did. But again, this stuff is certainly not spawned in. Oil build here, so just petroleum doing actually basic oil processing, which I like. I like the fact that they're taking advantage of the fact that you just get petroleum from basic oil processing. So they're really only making things where, if you just need petroleum, just do this instead of overcomplicating it. We do have a bit of advanced oil processing here. Making some solid fuel, rocket fuel here, which is combined on a belt, interestingly, and going up to here. So, okay. They are bringing in copper. Again, not at all criticizing. I'm a little curious. This is a ton of fuel for one train station. Holy moly. This is, like, ridiculous. I mean, this will fuel your trains until eternity. I mean, this is insane. Again, not a bad thing. I mean, they have it there. They don't need oil for red science, so why not? But this is crazy. I didn't realize this was just for fueling the train. Okay, well, they should be good with fuel for a long time. They are using 1-4 trains here. Single-headed trains, again, 4 wagons. I think whose base was it? Nibbloid? Not Nibbloid. Derpamuse base? Or someone else. I apologize. I can't remember exactly who. Someone else's base did fairly recently where they used 1-4 trains. And it worked quite well. Small trains, fast. So they're bringing the copper in here. Unloading. Red science, very straightforward. Again, 12 beacons set up on these, which I think is a good way to go with belts. I personally find that doing 12 beacons with belts is easier to route more belts through than the 8 beacon setups where they're just in a row. And all the machines are just slammed up against each other. So, good here, making the gears locally, putting them through, I'm not going to spend a ton of time looking at the individual build for science, because it's science, we've seen it a lot. But good build there, and it's loaded. So, again, very, very interesting, intriguing rail setup here that I can't say I've seen really much at all that I can recall. Just a single line going up, and the loading stations are literally just like little pull-offs off the side, little sidings off the off the main rail thing. It just load up here. It looks like just maybe a 1-1 train, which, you know, or even one wagon can carry a ton of science, so that's fine. Um, Loading here, and then just this one too. So pick up weight and then pickups. So they have like a weight station here because it's coming in from this direction. The labs are above this point. The labs are up north. So it comes in here, it waits, and then when this is free, it just zips around across the main line in this loop and pulls into here, and then just pulls out here and off it goes. Crossing the main line for this, generally, I think is not great. In this case, again, I think it works just because, as you can see, it's not like this is a super bustling main line. And also the reason for this is really quite ingenious. I don't know if it's intentional or not. I'd imagine it is. Is the way they've designed this. Actually, we somehow missed chemical science. There's more up top, so maybe, I think they have multiple science builds. Is the way this is designed is there's really not much, or if any, really, stuff coming past this. And this is why this works. Unlike like a conventional rail system, where you have trains of all sorts passing back and forth all the builds, there are very few trains that are actually coming through this section of the main line, like back and forth, except for the like red science train and maybe one or two others, because everything else is built above. It's the way this is designed, if that makes sense. So like, you know, green science trains aren't coming through here. You know, everything else above this is not going to be coming down. So I think this actually works fine, even though there's crosses and stuff, and it's only 2 lanes, because there's really very little traffic, very, very minimal traffic coming through here, because everything else is above it and has no reason to come down. So I think this is, and that's the case, you know, as we go up. You know, and same with the stuff, you know, stuff in the middle maybe gets a little more traffic, but then above, like things like red science are never going to need to go to the absolute end or anything, I don't think. So very, very well designed here, actually. Blue science, we have engines designed within the build. Again, 12 beacon setup, belts running through here, steel gears for the engines. And if we take a look here, I want to just kind of take a look at our delivery. So again, we see local production. This is a theme throughout the whole map. Iron here, coal here, copper here. Very lucky that those are together. More iron here, tons of iron. So one is just iron for pipes and gears. If we look over here, very straightforward. And then this is for steel. So interesting, they're electing to belt the iron and then build steel like below it rather than some sort of direct insertion build. I mean, again, this works. Just noticing some differences here. Again, same setup with the inserters. Nothing new here compared to what we just saw on the rest of the base. And then using some splitter priority to merge this all down into a line. And sending it over here to make the blue science. Red circuits made locally in this area. Again, due to the design, very few things delivered. They've built... They've run the train line through the copper patch, and then they've also mined the copper patch. So these rail lines are literally running through a mining field, which I actually like. I think it's fun. It's you know, I'm not a fan of building on ore patches except for rails. That's okay to me. And I think just having the rails like run tightly through here is actually pretty cool, pretty fun. So smelting copper here. In fact, do we have, where's the oil coming from? That would be my only, are they piping it from here? Okay, so this build here, again, pulling from here, this build here is sending this over to make the sulfur. So I don't actually think there's any trains coming here except the train to pick up blue science, which, you know, works out great. There's like no traffic on this rail line, which works out really well. Moving up, I know I'm getting a little long with these explanations. Moving up, we have stone brick here, iron. Again, not really going to spend any more time looking at the smelter builds. They're all the same, from what I can tell. Grenades here, which come over. Again, more brick here, which comes over and meets up. These are now belted, so we have 4 lines of stone brick, and then a line of grenades. Again, everything belt-based. Piercing ammo, walls, all coming over to military science, which is right here. And again, 12 beacon builds, sending the stuff through. This one looks like it has, actually a lot of these look like they have no exportation. So, I don't know if they meant to do that. I mean, I can't imagine they wouldn't have noticed this. I think this is okay. Don't know. It's just an extra inserter here. I don't know. Could put a belt here, and part of it would side load onto this, but I don't know. Interesting. I mean, regardless, we got a full lane out, so you know, that's that. And again, local production, copper patch here, iron patch here, stone patch here, boom. Mining everything here, smelting everything here. Again, wall build. So we come up, another artillery outpost. These are just every so often. I'm not sure what this is. Pack station of some sort, maybe. And then over here, we have more red circuits, some oil production, green circuits, which we did see before here. Again, slightly different beaconing on this, but I think that's fine. More green circuits, blue circuits, and this is just blue circuits. So the blue circuits are actually made in a large production area and then kind of sent around, it looks like. So this is a pretty decent sized blue circuit production area here. You know, the red circuits and green circuits are being belted in. Belting green circuits can be difficult. You can see that they are barely making it down just through 3 of these assemblers, but it certainly works. Coming over, just tons of blue circuits here. One train, same deal. With the stuff they're training around, I don't think they really need bigger trains, because even one wagon of blue circuits is a ton, and one wagon of every science is also a ton. So that pulls in this way. Yeah, this is a right-hand drive system, if we hadn't noticed already. Comes over, and then this is just separate. This isn't even part of the main line. Same with the LDS stuff. So, again, minimizing the traffic on the main line. I really, really like it. I can't actually recall a time I've seen something quite like this, but I'm a fan. I like it a lot. You know, this just is here, and then just whoop, belts underneath it, and then, you know, LDS, same deal, and you can see they're just waiting, and there's plenty of room. I mean, they could stack on this entire line, and come over here, and then this is the LDS build. Now, this building on the patch, I'm not a fan of. That's just personal aesthetic thing. It's not like it hinders the build at all, but steel, tons of copper. As we know, LDS takes a massive amount of copper, so tons of copper there. Copper builds, same as the iron builds. Nothing super crazy there, but there's a lot of it. Local production, as always. Some iron here for steel. More steel. Little defense bunker here. And then we come on up. So what is this? So this is like, these are just like engineering train stations, like building stations, because this is just like a building train. Ooh, I don't know. It's really appealing to me, the just all the different color inserters lined up there in that wagon. So we have that, and then over here we have LDS in this area, robo frames here. Looks like basically everything's local. Electric engines all made here. Very clean builds for the most part. Combining some different level belts. Interestingly, mining that, and then we have oil drop-off, water drop-off, which they are bringing in from a little ways away, but I would still consider this local, as it never goes on the main line. And then this stuff is, well, I don't see the science production here, so is it belted up or trained up? How is this getting its stuff? Is it just belted up from down here? Okay, sorry. I liked it. It's not labeled, so it was kind of hard to tell here. But yeah, so it just belts straight through here into yellow science. Just a very long build, but since yellow science is so slow, even with the, you know, modules and beacons and stuff, I would say that this is definitely acceptable. Coming over, again, blue belt of yellow science, loaded up. Same deal with the trains. Zips around and off it goes. And here are the labs. So they said the labs are the limitation. That the labs, you know, I mean, as you can see, every single one of these belts is absolutely full compressed. So the limitation is in the labs. And initially, this is a consumption limitation, but since it can only consume so much, then the belts back up, which means that then the builds stop working because they have nowhere to output, etc., etc. So then that's why our production is low. I fully believe they have the capability of producing about a blue belts of science a minute. They just can't consume it fast enough, so then it backs up farther down the line and then slows down production. So they certainly could add more labs, and I think they said that they may plan to in the future. But so this is just a gigantic line here of labs. Blue belt, and that can move a ton of science. So just all the way down. Productivity modules and labs, I like it. Definitely something you want to do. Speed beacons here, it looks like, just double checking, these are all 12 beaconed. Very nice. Some oil production here. Advanced oil making a ton of solid fuel and rocket fuel. I swear, if this is just for one train, man, I'm gonna go nuts. Oh, okay, it's for like all the science trains. This is still so much fuel for these trains. There's nothing wrong with this. I just find it hilarious. I've never in my life playing Factorio seen someone build this amount of fuel for like 6 train stops. Like, this is nuts. Like, this could probably generate like a gigawatt's worth of steam power. I don't know. I mean, I like it. It's hilarious. And then we come up here and this expands up. So then we have green science and purple science up here. So it's not really chronologically arranged. I don't know. I'm trying to think what the logic was in arranging this. So we have blue science first, red science. Maybe it was just due to the resources that were available on the spot, potentially. More artillery. So green science, very straightforward. Basically just needs iron and copper to make circuits and gears and stuff for the inserters. Local gears are, again, 12 beacon, productivity, great, good to go. Green science, same pickup strategy here. And then purple science, what I do want to look at here are these rail builds, because this requires so much dang rail. I'm always interested to see how people handle the rail production, if I can find it. Where is it, though? Steel drop-off. Find the build. Hey, so we just finished the mining productivity. Okay, so here's the rails. Yes. So there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8 fully beacon moduled assemblers doing rail. Just cranking this out. You can see how many inserters they have. They have stack inserters outputting here, doing the best they can to keep up. This thing is just flying with how much rail it's producing. I mean, if we find it, we're making like 9K rail a minute here. So luckily the stones here, again, everything local. I like it. I mean, they're not training in like anything really. I mean here, but again, this is a completely separate line from the main line. So they are smelting more steel way down here, and then bringing up. So I wouldn't necessarily consider this local, but it's still a whole separate line. It's local to the general area. It's not like they're getting it like way up here and training it down. So there's that, and then we come up. Space science, I think, is the last thing to really look at here, because the rest of this is just exploration. So space science, all the patches here. We have some little short oil jaunt right here. Electing to train that instead of piping it. I'd say that's a good call. Basic oil processing again, just petroleum, because that's all you need for plastic. Sending that in with a ton of copper and some steel for LDS here. Obviously needed for rockets, which is trained on over to LDS drop-off right here, which is belted underneath the track. Potential shortage on this. I have to watch it more extensively. And then 2 rocket silos, which I'll touch on that in a minute. And then rocket control units here. I like the module in the middle belting to each of these. Pretty cool. And they didn't actually speed this. They didn't need to. They did productivity, all this. Fantastic. Productivity in those parts. And the silo is just so good. So important. And then these guys, productivity, thank goodness. And of course, rocket fuel. Like, I just love the fact that, like, let me take a look here. I love the fact that if we take this, our visual, a visual catalog of this, and compare it to this, it's like the same size. Again, I'm not criticizing at all. I find it absolutely hilarious that the size of their rocket fuel production area to launch basically 2 rockets a minute is the same size as the rocket fuel production area to fuel like 7 or 8 trains. I just find that absolutely hysterical. But yeah, so the rockets I want to touch on, they would need to launch actually more than 2 rockets a minute if they were actually going to keep up with their Blue Belt of Science a minute, because that's, more than 2,000 science a minute. Blue Belts move 45 items a second, 60 seconds in a minute, so obviously more than 2,000, like 2,400 something, 25, I don't remember the exact math, but with only 2 silos, you're not going to be able to keep up with that. Again, they aren't actually consuming the Blue Belts of Science at the moment, but if they were going to, definitely we need to add another one, potentially 4. I think 3 would be okay. I think they would need to do like 2.5 science a minute. So 3 silos would probably be just about enough. 2 certainly would not be enough, because two of them wouldn't even be enough for just a flat 2,000 science per minute, as we touched in our last base tour. So just a note there. I'm sure they're aware of that, but I think that's it, guys. Red circuit production here to come on over for the blue circuits for the rocket control units. Same. Well, actually, these are a little bit different. So they're making so now they're doing the cable and then just belting it into a huge line of red circuits here. And there's actually 8 of these, opposed to the 6 they were doing before. I don't know if it's differently moduled, but really like kind of this whole merge thing here, outputting 2 full blue belts of red circuits. And there we go. I think that's going to do it. Green circuit, pick up more green circuit production over here, just kind of all over the place. If we just zoom out, I mean, this is a very large map. This is a very well explored map, and I really, really, really like this. It's unique. I'm gonna call it unique. It's it's a Megabase. It's a like X thousand science per minute, but this rail system I'm gonna say is unique, at least to what I've seen. Just the way this is done, and then the way this is organized, intentional or not, is really quite ingenious in my opinion. And the fact they're doing almost everything local to the builds is, I would say, lucky and smart. I mean, the luck is that they actually got patches like this. I mean, you would almost think they're spawned in, but I really don't think they are. It just doesn't seem that way. I don't think they were at all. If you just like max out the resources, I mean, you're gonna get this. You can see like there's resources literally everywhere, so it's not that hard to imagine that this is natural. I really like this. I'm a big fan. This is actually kind of inspiring to me. I never really would have considered building a large, like, multiple thousand science per minute base like this and have it work. Like, before I end this, let's just take a moment and just realize that this base, granted, is not fully, it's full production, but is doing about 2,000 science per minute, actually more than that, of some types, of almost every science. About 1,000, 2,000 science per minute, of every science. And look how empty this rail line is. And to me, that is really impressive. Because the thing is, it's not even just all in one area. Like, this is spread out. This literally spans from here all the way down. All the way down to here. And that level of production, and if we just look at this rail line, there's hardly any trains on here. And the trains that are on here are really small. And this, like, that may seem like not impressive. I suppose visually it's not impressive. And as far as like watching trains, which we all love to do, it's not impressive. But in terms of actual like design and concept, this is pretty astounding to me. Like, I can't say I've ever seen a base with this level of production that just has this few like trains moving around unless it's all jammed into one base in the same exact area and like barely even uses trains. The fact this is so spread out and just beautifully organized in the fact of how things are spaced and where things are sent, and that almost everything's local, and even things that are trained in are like on separate rail lines. So it's really taking advantage of like the separate, like just having separate rail lines, which normally you wouldn't really consider, or I wouldn't consider for a Megabase. I just like doing the one huge sprawling rail network because that's just how I build, and I think it's cool. But it does introduce a lot of, movement logistical problems where this basically avoids all those. And this could, granted, again, this is not full production, but even if it were, this could still grow. Like we are at, I on my computer am at about 7.5 to 8. When I first loaded in, I was at like 8.4 update. This could go all the way to like 15 update before it would start to drop below 60 UPS. So on my computer, this still has room to grow. Like if it were at full production, I would probably be at, I'd say, around 10.5, maybe 11. I would say 10 maybe. And or maybe even less than that, maybe like 9, because I mean we're still producing a lot here. And this is, I mean, that's just impressive. It's sure it's game optimization, but the design has a lot to do with this, and I'm thoroughly impressed. So I am thoroughly impressed. Thank you, Jackson, for submitting this to me. I'm sorry it took me so long to get to it, but I am happy I did, because this is really cool. Going into it, I didn't really know that it was going to be this cool. I read the synopsis and took a look at it, but I was just like, okay, they're doing some local production and stuff, and then I started the video, and I didn't actually, until we looked deeper into it, I didn't really realize. This is really impressive. This is really inspiring, actually. So thank you, Jackson, so much for submitting this. I hope you guys enjoyed as much as I did. I would love to hear your thoughts below. What you think of this, if you've seen other bases with this type of design, if you have bases like this type of design, because I've basically never seen something quite like this at this scale and have it work, and work quite well, I might add. So thank you so much. If you guys enjoyed, a like is much appreciated. It helps other people find the video, shows me and Jackson that you enjoyed the base. And if you're new to the channel or not subscribed, feel free to subscribe to keep up with all the new content like these videos and my future tutorials that are coming out. I am actually doing a tutorial series on a Megabase, so I may take some of these things we find here into account to add into that series. But thank you so much, guys. If you have any bases you'd like me to take a look at, if you have your own base that's huge or unique or both, or anything like that, then definitely let me know. Discord's the best way to get in touch with me. There's always a link in the description of my videos to join my Discord channel, and then you can message me from there. So I think that's going to do it. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time, I look forward to seeing you all, and do take care.